On this episode of the No Regrets Leadership Podcast, we hear from Pastor Jonathan Misirian, lead pastor of Southbrook Church in the Milwaukee area. In this conversation, we hear about what has worked for him in developing a presence in his community that paves the road for the gospel with people who don't know Jesus. If you're hungry to see the power of Jesus take hold in your community, but don't know where to start, this episode is a great place for you to be inspired and begin envisioning what God is calling you to do in simple and effective ways right where you are.
Well, I'm so glad that you've joined us for the No Regrets podcast this week. My name is Nate Gruber. I'm on staff with No Regrets. And today I am joined by Jonathan Misirian. Jonathan is a great guy who is really, really well known in the Milwaukee area, especially in the Brook network. If you have any ties or relation to Elmbrook and you've been to the conference before in the Milwaukee area, Jonathan is the senior pastor of Southbrook Church down in Franklin. And we're going to be able to hear a little bit about his story. He's also going to be speaking at the conference this year. He's one of our highlighted speakers. So we are just so glad to have Jonathan on the podcast this week. Jonathan, good to see you.
Love it. Thanks, Nate. Looking forward to it.
You know, I grew up at Elmbrook, and No Regrets has been an Elmbrook thing. And so for some of the guys listening to this, you know, they're men's leaders and they're all over the map. You know, we got a lot of guys kind of in the Milwaukee area, but we've got guys literally all over the globe, as you know. But Elmbrook was such a core key place where No Regrets started, right? Steve Sounderman was a pastor there for many, many years. As I've grown up at Elmbrook, and then I was on staff at Elmbrook, and I've just gotten to know so many people around the Brook network. I spent some time on staff at Meadowbrook most recently. And so I think we just know a lot of the same people. And what I've heard about you, really the number one thing I've heard about you is just how influential and connected you are in the Milwaukee area. So I want to get into all of that today. But really what I want to just first hear a little bit about is about you and how you came to faith and how you find yourself now here as the senior pastor of Southbrook.
Sure. I grew up in the church. My dad was a pastor, Baptist pastor, and we lived in Washington State at the time. And I remember being 7 years old and hearing the message of salvation. And as Baptists do, you had to walk up front the aisle to the front of the church. And I remember doing that as a kid, making that decision to follow Jesus. However, going off to college, like by the time my college years came around, I really wanted nothing to do with it. I think I saw the duplicity in my father as a pastor and a leader. I thought to myself, if that's what a pastor is, or if that's what a Christian is, I want nothing to do with it. So when I was in college, I was a history, political science major, and my goal was to work for the CIA.
Oh, wow.
Earlier on, I had met an analyst for the CIA, and he got me connected to their student services division. And so my goal was to graduate, get a master's in area studies, and then continue working with the CIA, or to start working with the CIA. So that was my goal in life. I went to a Bible college, and I got C's and D's in my Bible classes because I just didn't care. But it was my senior year of college when God just kind of grabbed a hold of my life through a godly professor and a local pastor and a volunteer youth leader. And all three of those men just challenged me and said, we see in you something that you can't see in your own self. And we see you being a pastor. And so I rededicated my life to the Lord and graduated college, went to seminary, got my master's of divinity at Trinity Evangelical Divinity School. And I started going to Southbrook Church, and we walked into Southbrook Church. I'll just tell you real quick, 3 months after the church started, and we walked in as regular, normal people just looking for a church home. I'm not from Elmbrook. I'm an outsider. We were living down in Kenosha County, and we were driving up into Milwaukee County because we heard there was a new church that got started. So we walked in as regular, normal people, fell in love with the church. Year and a half later, came on staff as the associate pastor. That was in 2000. And then in 2004, when our founding pastor resigned, I was the only one left. We were 50 people and me meeting in a public school. And so that's how I became the lead pastor of Southbrook Church.
Wow, that's great. You blew through so many years right there so quickly, which is good. But I mean, I want to start with the really good question, which is, you know, about the CIA. You had this desire to be like an agent, I take it? Like a kind of what we see on
Not an agent, but to be an analyst. So all those men and women that work behind the scenes that analyze the data and assess trends and so that was more my calling, yeah.
That's so interesting because, I mean, being a pastor, obviously, you have to be good with people. And I'm assuming if you had this desire from a young age, did you just find that you could read people well, or that I mean, was that any part of this, or no? Was it kind of a separate thing that you?
Hey, Nate, it's a great question. Totally separate. I am
Yeah, yeah,
actually socially awkward, struggle, and I'm introverted, and I
yeah.
have anxiety issues when it comes to public speaking. So
Wow.
knowing all of that,
Mm.
literally being a pastor was the last thing that I wanted to do. Then seeing my father, who was a pastor, and then he was a president of a Christian organization. He was a board member of a Christian college. Just seeing, again, the duplicity there between my own inabilities and seeing somebody that acted one way on Sunday and differently Monday through
Yeah.
Saturday, I said to myself, I will never do that. And I've learned when you say to God, hey, I will never do that, sometimes God comes through in a way that says, yeah, it's not going to be about you anyways. It's going to be about me. And so it's crazy. And I've been a pastor now for 25 years, almost
Yeah.
26 years.
Yeah, it's amazing. Okay, so you went to seminary. There was a change in heart. I mean, it sounds like you were, I don't want to say nominal, but you grew up in the church, right? There wasn't a deeper something that had happened, it sounds like earlier. I mean, did something happen there at the end of college? I know you said you had these guys who were speaking into your life, but I mean, there must have been some stirring in your heart that also happened. Is that true?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was also a philosophy minor. In January of my senior year of college, I was ready to walk away from the faith. And I remember
Yeah.
sitting down with a professor and just saying, I can be good, but I can be good without God. And you guys can do your religion thing. And that professor challenged me to dedicate my life to the Lord. In fact, he said, Misirian, you're sinking. You've taken
Mm,
your eyes off Christ and you've gone under the water like Peter walking on the water. He said, you need to get your eyes on Jesus and you'll come up out of the water. Like those words literally changed my life.
wow.
And to this day, I still am in touch with that professor. He's retired, and I still write him and thank him for the way that he encouraged me as a young man to really own my faith.
That's awesome. I mean, it's so unique. And even as you mentioned that you're introverted, you've got issues with anxiety that and public speaking. And I can relate on a lot of levels. I mean, honestly, I'm an introverted guy and I also have struggled with anxiety my whole life. And it is funny how God kind of uses that stuff because I know for me, I have no desire to be up in front of people, and God just constantly puts me up in front of large crowds of people speaking. And then seems like you're in the exact same boat. So it's comical, but just because of the number of pastors that I've met that have a real drive and an ego to want to quote unquote succeed, whatever that means. And I just am like, boy, if I never went up in front of people ever again, that'd be just fine by me. But as you think about Southbrook, then, I mean, you said when you started it was 50 people when you started attending there.
Yeah, I mean, we were a brand new church plant of Elmbrook back in the summer of 90. It was Easter of 98 that Southbrook had
Yeah.
its first morning service. We walked in the summer of 98. The church was maybe 100 people. It grew to maybe 125, 130 when I came on staff. As soon as I came on staff, the numbers began to decline, and the
Hmm.
2000 to 2004 was super rough for Southbrook. We were losing
Wow.
people all the time. Finally, our senior pastor resigned, and it was just me and 50 people in September of 2004. Yeah.
That's crazy because I've been to Southbrook recently, over the past couple of years to do events and with youth ministry stuff. And I even led worship for an event there once, and it's not that way. Pretty big, beautiful building. I'm assuming the number, it's a fairly sizable church, great campus and everything. So, what changed in the last 20 years? I mean, I know God did it. It's not something you did, I don't think, but it's like what has happened that has caused it to really turn and change trajectory and direction?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's one that I get asked often because it is an odd situation, and I know that, and I'm aware of the uniqueness of having a church of 50 people to a church of 1,000 people
Yeah.
is not a normal thing. And so I don't have a good answer, and there really
Yeah.
isn't a good answer because we haven't really changed anything. Uh,
Mm.
we love working with other churches. We're super supportive of other churches. We love serving our community. We love making a difference in small behind the scenes ways. And I'm a firm believer in like little things done well over time produces a tremendous amount of results. And so
Mm.
I don't have a good answer. I don't know if there is a good answer. I know that God has just pulled together just amazing people And I'm just glad to be a part of it. I mean, it's bigger than me and it's bigger than all of us combined. So I wish I had a better answer.
Well, you know what? I love the answer because I think you're right. And I think Jesus is on the same page as you. I mean, he talks about that in all of his parables, right? It's not these big ideas. It's about just sowing seed and being faithful to the little bit of that you do, whatever you're entrusted with. And also, you think about the story of Elmbrook. I mean, my parents have been there since 1975. They've been there for 50 years now. And so I grew up with just hearing the stories of the 70s in Elmbrook. And, it started as this little Baptist church and they had nobody and they called Stuart Briscoe and this whole thing. But then you see the ripple effect over the years of the past 50 years from that of talking about no regrets, but then so many other massive ministries that have been launched, churches that have been planted. And really, I don't think any of it was this huge uber talented, thing of people. I think it's been obviously a mixed bag of a lot of people, but it's been a lot of small, faithful steps along the way. And so I think it's just a testament to that exact same thing.
Sounds good. I'll take it.
Yeah, that's great. Just kind of before we turn a little bit, I am curious about the people of Southbrook. How would you describe the culture you have there, the faith community that you have there? What do you think is kind of the thing that you guys, if you had to describe your community to somebody else, you'd say, this is who we are?
Yeah, it's fascinating in that, we're probably evenly split 50-50 in terms of politics, which I think is a value, and I think that's a very healthy thing. We're also probably evenly split, and I don't think they're synonymous, but we're probably evenly split as well between people that have been church, that are coming from other churches, that know the word well, that are solid Christians. But the largest growth we have, 50% maybe, are people that this is their first time in a non-denominational evangelical church. They're coming out of cultural Catholic or Lutheran, where they're generally familiar with the story, but that's it. They've never really opened a Bible before. And so I help to lead a men's Bible study that meets Tuesday mornings at 6 a.m. And this last Tuesday, we had 26 men show up at 6 a.m. for Bible study. And we're not talking politics, we're not talking sports, and I don't even lead it. They're not coming to hear me. We rotate other guys who lead it. But 26 men coming. But out of that 26 men, a good 2/3 of them, this is their first time ever opening a Bible in their life.
Wow.
So it's not that we're seeker sensitive or anything like that. We're preaching the word, but we just do it in such a way that makes it accessible for those people that are brand new. And then we encourage our mature believers, hey, the reason why you're here is not for you. The mark of maturity is not for you to hear another sermon. The mark of maturity is for you to mentor, disciple somebody else along. And so our mature believers love it because they see coming to church as a mission field for them versus another opportunity to hear another message. And so that's kind of the way we do it at Southbrook. It's a mix. It's a ton of community people. It's a crazy blend of everyone on the south side of Milwaukee County, to be honest with you.
That's awesome. And it's so in line with the heart of, I know, who No Regrets is as well, which is about making disciples who make disciples. It's about going. It's about the Great Commission. I mean, this is what we think the core of what it means to be a disciple is. And so I love to hear that because I think the church has, it's reached a lot of the modern evangelical church in the West. It's we don't need another sermon. Sermons are great. I think I have a gift as well. I know you do too. It's great to give sermons. Most of us don't need more information. We need to actually put our boots on and actually do the thing that God's calling us to do, which kind of leads me to the next thing that I'm thinking of for you, because I know Steve mentioned you to me a few months ago, and he's we were talking about getting more connected into the Milwaukee community. He's you got to talk to Jonathan because this is a guy who's really, really connected in the community. Would you say that that's true of yourself? And what does that connection look like as far as being connected to whether it's other pastors or organizations or just people who are active in the community?
Yeah, I think, when we were a small church and when I was a solo pastor, one of the things that really stands out to me is I don't think another pastor ever reached out to me once for anything on any issue, like friendship or anything like that. I remember when we were 50 people saying to myself, if Southbrook is ever going to be different, that's something that I want to change. And so I just started networking with pastors and getting pastor groups. And over the years, it's grown to numerous pastor groups. And now I think because of the consistency of being at one place for 25 years, there's a good chunk of churches in southeastern Wisconsin that are friends, that work together, that truly have friendships. And I think it comes from a lot of like behind the scenes. So from the church side, yeah, our churches are networked like never before. And there's other pastors that have also caught that same vision. So it's not about me, but there's like 5 or 6 of us in the Milwaukee area at least that are really connectors, that are really working hard behind the scenes to connect, encourage, empower, take meals for each other, preach for each other, pray for each other. But then, like being in the community, when you live in the communities that you're pastoring, you can start building bridges in non-offensive ways. And we've seen a massive amount of growth and success with working with our public schools, working with the police, fire departments, and all sorts of things like that, to the point where like regularly our public schools and city entities will call the church because they need help. And when the government and the city is calling the church for help, that to me is a sign of success and growth. But that also comes from years and years and years of showing up with cookies and weeding the gardens of the police station, or sweeping out their garage, or just doing lots of dirty work. And you do that, and then God has a way of blessing that and transforming that over time with a consistent heart. And so that's what we've done. And it is crazy. I mean, it's crazy the amount of connections and relationships that are there now.
That's awesome. I think so many of the guys probably listening to this, they're men's leaders. They might be leading a men's ministry in their church. A lot of them aren't. A lot of them are just business leaders, or just guys, guys living out their life. But I think a lot of us, it's like we go to Bible study, we might go to church, and that's kind of all we feel like we have time for. And church is, in a lot of ways, just kind of taking in information, and it never really goes out beyond the community.
Hey, church leaders, do you desire to teach your men how to impact their world for Christ in their own place and space? Then consider bringing Disciple Maker 101 Live directly to your church. Disciple Maker 101 Live covers the same material as our flagship 10-week online course, but in a condensed version. Steve Sonderman, founder of No Regrets, will come to your church and walk your men through this transformative course while inspiring and equipping them to make disciples who make disciples. For more information, visit our website, noregretsmen.org, and book Disciple Maker 101 Live today.
So hearing what you're saying, I think is inspirational for some of us, but also, I don't know if you have any advice for any guys who are sitting here going, man, I wish my church did that, or I wish I could do that, or could you help them maybe just imagine what might be a step or two, especially like you said, you're an introverted guy. It's not like you're dying to go out there, I'm assuming, every single day, but maybe you are, I don't know. But do you have any advice for us who might be in that situation?
Yeah, here's the thing. I think this is probably one of the greatest ways that we can model Jesus is through that personal care, an act of service, or an act of kindness. Yeah. So you think of like, we have a public school right next to us, and like there's different approaches. You can approach the public school as being anti-Christian and find all their negatives and protest it and yell at it and do that. Or you can take the approach of, hey, these are God's people doing God's work, whether they know it or not, and we want to come alongside and support them. So we started showing up as an example with cookies, and just cookies for the staff, and a note saying, we love you, we're praying for you. And then like doing that consistently. A couple of years ago, they had the local school here had a teacher die tragically in the middle of the school year. And the principal called me and said, would you come and actually pastor our people through this? And I thought to myself, that is unheard of. And so like literally for the next 2 weeks, I worked out of that public school, just listening and caring and stuff like that. So I would encourage people, like, find a business or a school or the police or fire, or who's always overlooked is the Department of Public Works. Show up at a DPW, especially after a snowstorm, with a tray of donuts and just say, thank you for your work. Like we have 2 families that started coming to our church because years ago, we dropped off donuts at the DPW. And when they were looking for a church, they said, we don't know any churches, but we know that Southbrook brings donuts. And it's not the best reason to come to a church, but I'll take anything. And so like finding simple ways to just show some love in an unexpected way is probably one of the best ways that we can model Jesus. You do that consistently over time, and that opens doors tremendously in your community.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's so simple. That's like I think any guy listening right now could probably take 30 seconds and write down 5 things that they could do like that. And you don't have to do all 5. It's, you just pick one and start showing up consistently. So I love that. I think it's right on point. The fact that you're going to be talking at the No Regrets conference and that your talk is on living out your faith in your community. And so I think that that's awesome. Steve's been really, really intentional about picking someone within the local kind of Brook or Milwaukee network to be one of the main speakers at the event each year. Last year it was Matt Erickson from Eastbrook Church, great guy. I know you know him, and so do I. And this year it's you. So I'm really excited for you to be able to hear you speak on this. Do you want to give us any sort of a taste? I know you don't want to give the whole talk right now, but just maybe a reason why you might say, hey, if you're thinking about what session you want to go to here at the conference, you should come to mine. You want to give us a little bit of a taste for that?
Well, here's what I'll tell you. Like, living out your faith in your community can be overwhelming. Like, it can be scary. And there's reasons for that. Sometimes it's the model that the church sets up. Like, there's only one way to do it. And if you're not wired that way, you don't fit in. Sometimes there's guilt. Sometimes we feel manipulated. I don't know about you, but I know for me, I compare myself to like those people that have the gift of evangelism, and I don't. But when I compare myself, then I'm like, oh, if that's what it takes, then there is no way that I can do that. And to be honest with you, there's so many bad examples, I think, in our culture of people trying to share Jesus that it turns out what I call, like, I don't want to be the jerk for Jesus type of a person. That person yelling or screaming at you or using guilt and manipulation. So because of those negative things, I think for myself and for a lot of men, we just tend to pull back and we say, well, if that's what it takes, I can't do it. So here's the good news. So here's what I have. So in my talk that I have for us, I'm laying out 6 different ways that the Bible shares with us how to share our faith. And there's 6 different ways are so broad and so different that they will guarantee apply. One of those ways will apply to every single person. And that's the amazing news, is that you don't have to be like somebody else. You don't have to have the gift of evangelism. You don't have to be a great person. You don't have to be the smartest one in the room. You don't have to be the Billy Graham for your town. You just have to embrace the way that God has wired you. But it first starts with understanding, how has God wired me? And what I'm going to suggest is that there are 6 ways that God has wired us, at least. And there's 6 different stories that will quickly run through that we can find ourselves and go, oh, if that's how God has wired me, then that's how God wants to use me. And then I don't have to be like my pastor or somebody else. I can be exactly how God created me to be. And that's how he wants me to live out my faith in my community.
That's awesome. It feels like a really daunting thing. And what I've found and observed in myself, so I'll speak for myself, like being a part of evangelical churches, a lot of times I think it's a really, really good thing on a lot of different levels. One of the traps that I've fallen into is the trap of really just enjoying Bible studies, like getting to know the same group for a long time. The Bible becomes pretty safe for me, and I think that there's a lot of guys out there where they're in the same boat. It's like, don't ask me to go talk to other new people or share my faith or get into the community, but I can read the Bible, I can study the Bible, I can get degrees on the Bible, and I can spend the rest of my life kind of doing thinking kind of stuff about the Bible. None of that is bad. Right over here on this wall, and I know you're the same, is literally just a wall of books, of books on the Bible. But what I've been waking up to more and more over the years is the fact that Jesus really didn't tell his disciples to read many books. He told them to follow him and then to go into the world and make disciples. Now, as I think about the conference coming up, because what you're stirring in my thinking now, it's a conference that's on surrender. When I think of surrender, I think of these kind of big mountaintop moments maybe for a lot of guys. But now today I'm thinking, dang, it might actually be something as simple as like changing my lifestyle a little bit and surrendering this like place of comfort. What do you think? Like, how does that idea of surrender kind of tie into this for you? Or is this sparking anything in your thinking as you hear me talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lyric from some Christian rock song from 20 years ago that I remember that said, "Surrender, save my life." Surrender, we think of it as a negative, like you gave up, but man, like surrender is the most positive and powerful action that we can do as followers of Jesus. And surrender for me is a both and. It's a one-time moment where we make that commitment to follow Jesus, and then it's like an every single day. It's almost kind of like the way I think about like loving my wife. I mean, we're going to be married for 30 years come this month, December. And
Yeah.
like I remember clear as day, like our wedding and saying those vows. But I also know like after 30 years of marriage, like it's an everyday recommitment to her. Not that it's tough or it's difficult or I've got to recommit, as it is just like, wait a minute, I am married to her and I need to make sure that every day that I am committed to that relationship. And I think that's how it works with our surrender with Jesus. Like we have a one-time moment where or it's a process for whoever, it doesn't matter, but we've come to that place of surrendering our life to Jesus. And then it's that reality that, yep, every day is a gift given from him, and I need to use that day for him.
Yeah, I think that's a good word, because I tend to go so quickly to these kind of moments that really stick in my memory from the past about like, oh, when I surrendered, or this was a really big moment in my life. And I think that that's important. But I think what you're saying is even more important, is that we forget that things like a marriage, things like these are actually surrender moments that happen every single day. I'm excited. I'm excited to hear you speak at the conference. Are there any kind of final words as you think about these guys who are maybe in the middle of a group right now? They're at their church, they're leading in whatever context they're in. For the next couple months here, as we lead up to the conference, just any words of advice or encouragement that you might want to leave them?
Yeah, if there's ever a time when we need men to be men, and not like cultural examples of men where it's about fighting and arguing and dominance and power, but men who are transformed into the image of Jesus, who are modeling the fruit of the Spirit. Like this is that moment. I'm convinced the more I look at our culture, the more I look at our politics, the more I look at the fake examples, human examples of what a man is supposed to be, that they are so contradictory to the example of Jesus. And so when I think through an encouraging word for guys today, like we stay grounded in Jesus, we stay grounded in God's word. And then like, this is that moment that we are living out our faith in such a way that people will want to understand who Jesus is. And to me, like that's an exciting time. As much of it is like chaotic at the moment, culturally for us or politically, or from my opinion, it is. Like this is a beautiful opportunity, not for Christians to raise their voice louder or to build a bigger platform, because everyone's doing that, but to live their lives in such a way that people will go, why do you have that hope? And man, what a beautiful opportunity, especially for men. Like I'm seeing it more and more. I'm involved. The other day, the assistant superintendent at a local public school district reached out to me and said, hey, can you help us start a men's Bible study? There's so many of us on staff and we don't even know what we're doing. And so like I'm sitting next to superintendents and police chiefs and guys showing up early morning for Bible studies. And you're like, there's such a hunger for men to have a space where they can be open and transparent and pray for each other and hear from God. So I just want to encourage our men. Like I do see God is working behind the scenes in real powerful ways. And like, this is that moment for us to surrender everything over to Jesus.
That's awesome. I'm legitimately really inspired by this conversation today because, gosh, I know so many pastors who are inspirational guys in the sense that they're extroverted, great public speakers, all these kind of like type A things that you would kind of run down a list. As I'm hearing you talk and even this kind of call that you're just calling guys into here at the end, I'm thinking like this is all so practical. It does not seem that complicated what Jesus has actually called us to do on a day-to-day basis. It's just that consistent showing up, surrendering, and leading. Like when people see the fruit of the Spirit coming out of people, for people who have never come in contact with a person who's been born again by the Spirit of God, it is absolutely dumbfounding. Obviously, you know that, right? I'm not telling you anything new, but like we forget that the normal life of a Christian is to be Spirit-filled and have this fruit that like overflows all the time. And to us, it can seem mundane if we've been doing it for 20 or 30 years. There's nothing mundane about it. And so I'm just really inspired by what you're sharing. And I'm so excited to have you at the conference here soon and to be able to hear you share with us. So thank you so much just for being with us today.
Love it. It's an honor. Glad to be able to team up with No Regrets. I started going to No Regrets 30 years ago, just as a regular, young, newly married person. I remember taking every breakout session on parenting and marriage because I had such a hunger, and No Regrets had a profound influence on shaping me early on, man. So whatever I can do, I love it all.
Yeah, it's a powerful event time, but it's God doing it. You can see God's hand working in this. So that's awesome to hear. Love it.
All good. Thanks, Nate.
All right. Great conversation with you today, Jonathan. We'll see you soon. Well, we hope that this conversation today was really helpful for you, that it was exactly what you needed to hear. And if it was, we'd love if you would share this episode on social media so that it can impact others and go beyond just this message for today. And if you'd like to receive more conversations, trainings, and resources like this one, you can always do that by downloading the No Regrets app. It's an awesome resource that will keep you updated with news and articles, and it'll keep you leading in all of the areas that God has called you to lead in. You can also sign up for the No Regrets Leadership email list by visiting our website, noregretsmen.org. And it's a monthly leadership email that will take these ideas to the next level. And lastly, if you could just subscribe, and share that on social media, that does a ton for us. That helps spread the word of this. It helps to expand the reach of these great conversations. And with that, goodbye, and keep leading for the cause that counts.
Thank you for joining the No Regrets Leadership Podcast. For more information and to access past recordings, please visit www.noregretsmen.org/podcast.
Life Camp USA is a nonprofit organization that mentors young men who have lost a father due to military or law enforcement service. Life Camp USA provides an all-expenses-paid, week-long, world-class camp experience that inspires, equips, and navigates these fatherless young men through some of life's toughest moments. Life Camp USA's mentors serve grieving families by helping these sons establish healthy identities, values, character, and goals without the crucial aid of a father in their life. To learn more about Life Camp's mission, visit lifecampusa.org. Again, that's lifecampusa.org.